Hi guys, today I thought I would make a different video that basically details all of the improvements that are necessary for Halo Reach to become a better game on PC. So without further ado, here are 6 improvements needed for Halo MCC on PC. But first, let's roll the intro. Okay, so first things first, I did ask the opinions of some streamers and high-level gamers for Halo before I decided to go ahead and make this video. I've also decided to go ahead and include those clips from their streams in this video later on. Also, if you guys think I forgot to include the opinion of a streamer in this video, make sure you list out your favorite streamers and I'll check them out and try and get their opinions. As always, be sure to smash that like button. It helps to make sure this kind of video gets discovered. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1 is pretty simple and at the same time very necessary, but somehow got overlooked. I'm talking about a report feature for players that are extremely toxic. Some of you guys are probably thinking, dude, what are you whining about? Just mute the guy and move on with your life. Putting it very simply, yes, that is the mature thing to do. However, if there are new players that are transitioning into Halo from other games like CSGO or League of Legends or whatever title you can think of, they're going to expect that this game has a report function. And when they figure out that this game doesn't have an immediate report function, they're probably going to think, okay, well, people are toxic in this game and they know they can get away with it without being punished. So now I'm going to go back to playing League of Legends or CSGO because I know that that game publisher will do something to punish extremely toxic players. Now, to be entirely fair, if you have a Windows 10 PC, then you can go to the Windows Store and install the Xbox Console Companion. And then you can manually search for players who said toxic things in your game and then report them that way. However, I feel like that's one too many steps to take to actually go through and report a player. You should actually be able to report them in-game. Here's Lethal's opinion on that.
Killing spree.
Hell yeah, you should be able to report people in game. I don't know how the hell we can't.
Number 2 pretty much goes without saying. We need some network improvements as well as optimization to the Halo MCC on PC client. Right now, it's just a little bit too easy for the game to crash at the end of a match when you hear the game over that comes from the multiplayer narrator voice. Alt-tabbing at the very end of a match will more often than not result in a crash to the game. Now, if I just said crash and that would be the end of it, that would be the end of it. But this kind of crash is the worst kind of crash you could have because you would have to hit Control-Alt-Delete to enter the task manager, shut down the game, and then reboot the game. At least when PUBG was a poorly optimized game and crashes were a frequent thing, the game would just exit as soon as it crashed. And then you could relaunch it without any major issues. I almost forgot to mention networking. Right, so that's a big issue. Let's get to talking about that. If you live on the US West Coast or the US East Coast and you're playing against someone on the opposite coast of the US or across the Atlantic, then you know what I'm talking about because you could be playing against a player that has a better connection to the server than you and thus an unfair advantage, if even just slightly. Now, I have heard of third-party programs like WT-Fast or Exit Lag which can eliminate connectivity issues, but I've never used any of those myself. So if you've used them before and if they've helped you improve your gameplay in Halo, make sure that you tell us in the comments below. I don't want to endorse a product without having used it myself. Alright, so moving on. Number 3 is just making in-game communication much more fluid. I realize this is a vague statement, so allow me to clarify. In order to join text chat, you must hit J on your keyboard in the middle of a game or a between-game lobby. This in and of itself is not a big deal in my book, but in order to close the chat box, you must either move your mouse to click the X on the upper right-hand corner of the chat box, or you can simply hit the escape button on your keyboard. So then why am I complaining? It's because 343 has kind of missed the trend of hitting enter to close a chat box if you haven't typed anything. This is an overly simplified feature that 9 out of 10 PC games have figured out. And I'm sure it would be an absolute sin for me not to mention this issue. It would be being forced to push the V button on my keyboard to speak to anyone in game. The V button is actually right next to the G button, and I have on 1 or 2 occasions accidentally thrown a grenade when I wanted to call out an enemy's position to my teammates in hardcore. If I recall correctly, this feature should be patched over later on, but the sooner it comes, the better. Number 4 is pretty simple. It's simply improving upon the competitive playlists that already exist. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail since I covered it in my last video, and you can go back and watch that if you'd like. But a lot of us are scratching our heads wondering if Invasion should actually be competitive, considering when Reach first launched, it was not actually a competitive playlist. It was just, you know, kind of a substitute for big team battles. with just a bit of a twist. Number 5 is a bit of an issue that was kind of overlooked at launch, maybe not predicted so aptly, but everyone started encountering it en masse. I am talking about very laggy experiences in online co-op for campaign mode. I've heard it's so bad that players who live right next to each other are unable to play a game of co-op campaign without extreme lag, which kind of makes me sad because personally I would love to be able to play some LASO campaign, but I've never actually had the chance to do that myself, except for maybe a few times back in 2011. On that note, I would like to mention I'm not that big on campaign and never really was, besides Halo 1, and of course I'm talking about playing Halo 1 at my friend's place on the same Xbox. So I can see why a lot of people want co-op campaign to be fixed. Last but certainly not least, here's number 6. This is one of my pet peeves, and I actually reached out to Snipedown for his opinion on this. You'll hear it just a little bit later. It is a global marketing push. We need to see 343 Studios reaching out to some countries and saying, hey, how would you like to run a small-scale online tournament or something like that? We've seen big-name teams like, say, Team Liquid kind of take the foray into the competitive Halo scene at some points, but Team Liquid is essentially a Western team. Also, the term global is a very subjective term. One could argue and say that simply by taking the Australian, North American, and European markets by storm, that Halo is a global esport. However, I respectfully disagree. I particularly believe that if an esports title wants to really be global, there must be Korean and Chinese esports teams existing for that game title. The reason being is because these two countries are very influential on the world stage when it comes to professional gaming. If you guys have done any research on StarCraft Brood War in Korea and China, you will know exactly what I am talking about. Alas, I regress. I do not want to sound authoritarian on this kind of topic or like a gatekeeper, but I feel as though that's when we'll know that Halo has truly gone global. Thanks for your patience. Here is Snipedown's opinion on the topic at hand.
I think we should see a more global Halo circuit. I don't think anything's going to happen necessarily in this game. I think when Halo comes to PC on Halo Infinite, we have a very good chance of seeing Halo become more global.
So there you guys have it. 6 improvements in a nutshell that need to be made to Halo MCC on the PC. Let me know if you guys thought I missed any kind of major improvements that need to be made to the game. I don't want you guys to think that I was being entirely nitpicky, nor do I want anyone to get the impression that I think Halo MCC on PC is just god-awful, because that couldn't be further from the truth. The absolute worst rendition of the Halo franchise on any platform has got to be, without a doubt, Halo 2 for Windows Vista. And in case you guys don't know about that, I recommend you go and read up on it. Maybe one day I can do that for you guys, though. You know what? I'll go ahead and leave you guys on this note. I actually built a special computer to play Halo 2 for Windows Vista when it first launched. But the game was so poorly optimized at the time that nobody, and I mean nobody, could play the game with a smooth experience. So all things considered, Halo MCC on PC, starting with Reach, has been an okay launch. It's been functional, and at the end of the day, the game, it simply works. There's no massive complaints I have in that regards. I'm going to be pretty Mia for the next few weeks, maybe the next couple of months, but I'll do my best to make 2 quality uploads to this channel every week. If you guys enjoyed the content that you all saw today, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. You guys know the drill. This is Binge 4K out.